Good evening, everybody. This is Marty Owings, and I'm live at the Capitol, and we are with St. Paul mayoral candidate Dai Thao. How do you do?
I feel great. Thanks for having me here.
Good. I'm glad you could make it down today. All right, let's start right off by some recent news. The news that the allegations against you for, quid pro quo, that was cleared. You want to talk about that right off the bat? Let's get that out of the way.
Sure, absolutely. All along we've been telling everybody that these allegations were false. And we're just really thankful. The BCA, Scott County, they did a real thorough investigation to clear our name. So it's actually in our favor for them to do that and to clear us. And I'm taking a high role because these things are expected when you're stepping on the status quo. You're trying to create change. And you have a history of getting things done. You're a little guy, but you're feisty, you're scrappy, you fight for the regular people. These things are expected. And I've been saying to the team and everybody that talks to me about it, it's like, we have to learn how to forgive people. Whether their intent was to harm us personally or politically, we have to set an example of forgiveness. Because in order for our city to move forward, we have to learn how to forgive the people across the street from us, our neighbors. And this is a time where we unite across race and culture, unite across neighborhoods and income, unite across gender and generations. And so we're really relieved that it's out of the way. Mm-hmm. We knew that this would happen. We knew we would be exonerated. It was just a matter of time. Mm-hmm. And my message to our supporters, thank you so much for standing by me. And supporting my family in my campaign through this whole ordeal. I think it has, I've grown so much out of this. It makes me even more qualified and better prepared to face the trouble that the city is facing right now. I feel like I've grown 5 inches taller just to this whole experience. My family, we're very happy this is done with. And I'll never stop fighting for the people, the regular people. And I'll do this again and again until the people of St. Paul get their fair share of the resources and services.
What do you say to the critics that say, well, okay, this isn't the first Dai Thao run-in with, I guess, the establishment, and that maybe where there's smoke, there's fire. What do you say to that? How do you respond?
We cooperated with the investigation 100%, and we know, being in the middle of this whole thing, that they did a very thorough investigation. We knew we'd be clear. We know we have done no wrong, and we know this is a political attack. And so it's, I think that the people who, we need to ask people who are asking that, what's their real motive? What's the motive behind all this?
Sure. Well, I don't want to belabor that point, but let's talk about that for a minute. So, the circumstances. So you had a meeting with somebody who interpreted your request for resources as a quid pro quo. Did those people, that individual, she's been in the news, so you can mention her, but do you believe those people had connections to a campaign or an organization that was out to get you personally, politically?
There's lots of things that I can't say that I want to say, but again, our campaign, we're going to take the high road. We're going to look forward. Hang
on now. My job is to say and get you to say those things that you might not ordinarily say, right? You're going to make it hard on me if you say those things all night. So is there something you can say to those, because you mentioned that this might be a political, retribution or to keep you down, and I want to give you that opportunity to talk explicitly to that, Mr. Thao, because you've said that publicly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's also no gain in that, right? Like, there's no gain in saying how I feel. I mean, I think what's important is...
They want to know. People want to know how you feel.
Well, I feel, I don't have any animosity, any remorse. I feel like this whole ordeal has been really a blessing in disguise. Because
no way, man. I would be pissed if it was me and somebody did that to me. Come on, man. You're killing me with this.
Well,
you're a little bit pissed off.
Well, I think that as someone who has gone through poverty, who's gone through war,
yeah, sure,
who lost family members during the war, who has survived the public housing, all these different things, having to live off the food shelf, growing up in a single family home. I've been tested so many times in my life. And to me, this is just, water underneath the bridge. We have to make sacrifice. And when we're in public service, we have to make sacrifice for the good of mankind or humanity or the city. And so these are the things that's expected, and I'm okay with it. I'd rather that I was the person that was being attacked versus the constituents. I'm okay taking that blow so that the people of St. Paul can thrive and have a good life. And I'm okay. I'm at peace with that. And I say that from my heart.
Let's talk about then some more positive things. So you're the first Hmong American person to be elected to the St. Paul City Council. I think you followed in Mimua's footsteps. She blazed a trail and got elected to Senate here. How did that make you feel? I mean, what was it like?
I felt a sense of responsibility. That's why I ran in the first place.
Yeah.
My father and his 5 brothers fought on behalf of the United States during the Secret War. Right. And I lost 2 sisters and a brother. There's so many countless folks that lost their life in this conflict. And growing up in the refugee camp, surrounded by barbed wire, I remember going into the market and following people who had food, because if they throw away a chicken bone, that would be my meal. And so through that hardship, I always thought that America would be paradise. But when I got here, it wasn't paradise. There was so much discrimination, racism, people calling me chink and gook, told me to go back to my country. And some of these were adults. And it was very painful. So even though I didn't know the language, I can tell in their eyes, in their body, the posture, that they weren't friendly. And it was very painful. And to see, but at that age, 8 years old, 9 years, I could handle all of that. I could take those pain. But when I began to see other kids at school getting the same treatment, for some reason I couldn't stop myself from protecting them and looking out for them. And so at an early age, I've learned how to protect others and make sure that other people, the vulnerable people in our community, the people at the bottom, get their fair share. Because we're baking, for example, I use the analogy of baking a pizza. Everybody in the city of St. Paul, we bake this huge pizza together. But when it's all sliced and diced, some of us don't get our slice. Some of us are thrown scrap, and then we're fighting for that scrap in the community. Yes. And it's just been like that for a long time. We got to change that, and that's what Dai Thao is all about. So as an information technology professional, for the last 16 years, I know a little bit about technology. I know a little bit about how to make government more efficient, innovation to improve the quality of lives for our residents. As a community organizer with Isaiah and Take Action Minnesota, I know a little bit about how to bring people together in their own interests and to co-govern and to co-create. I still believe that government, in order for our democracy, republic to thrive, we have to co-govern. And we can't just, because we're elected, we shouldn't just make decisions based on what we think is good, right? Like, we got to work with the community to come up with a solution, because they're the one that baked the pizza with us. Without them baking the pizza, we wouldn't be in the position that we are. So I still believe that American spirit, and that's why I ran. So it's a privilege. I just happen to be Hmong American, but I'm just as Irish or African American as anybody else. Because I love this city, I cherish all culture here, and I want to embrace all culture. In Laos, when an American pilot gets shot down, or when they fly over Vietnam, they're instructed to fly into Laos so that a Hmong soldier can go and rescue them. It's a race to save that American pilot, and we would send 100 of our men to go and rescue this one white person that we don't know. When we come back, sometimes there's only 10 of us. And some of these Hmong soldiers that go are boys, young as 10. That is a great demonstration of courage, honor, and loyalty. And those are the things that's in my blood: honor, loyalty, courage to this country. And so when I serve the community, I'm here to make everything better. I'm not here, and my people, the Hmong people, are not here to take away from anyone. If we're here to help people grow the pie so that everybody gets more of it. Sure. And with that same honor, same integrity, same courage, same loyalty to this country. We're here to help make St. Paul a better place for all of us.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about your campaign. So you got some good news yesterday. You probably already knew the news. You got some fat bankroll. You got some sweet Benjamins in the bank now, like $171K. And it looks like you're in second place in fundraising. Talk about that. Why do you need so much money?
Well, it's very expensive to do a campaign in this country. The lit piece, the technology, the communication, staff, volunteer. It's just a very expensive endeavor. Mm-hmm. And even though those false allegations was a cloud over us, many people still believe in our message.
That was my next question. Did that affect your fundraising at all?
I think it did, right? Okay. But at the same time, there were folks who say, hey, you know what? We know this is a political attack. Yeah. Here's something to help you do your work and win in November. So we got a bunch of fundraiser event lined up. Yeah. And as soon as the allegation was clear, people are sending in money and their support and phone call. And so thank you so much. I appreciate you, everyone out there in the community across this country that has contributed to our vision. Thank you so much for caring so much about the city of St. Paul.
You have to do that on your own website.
All right,
yeah, okay. So you got the fundraising piece. That's you feel confident about that. You at one point fired your campaign manager. Can you talk a little bit about that? What prompted that decision? And then, I assume one of these people is the replacement. You've got an audience right here, so.
Well, I mean, there was nothing to say about that because there's nothing wrong with letting go of a campaign staff.
And there isn't. But why fire him in the middle of a campaign?
Well, like I said, we there's no wrongdoing in the investigation. I don't see any point in going to that because Angela Marlowe is someone I respect and I have a good relationship with. It's a professional relationship, so I like to leave it like that.
I see. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the campaign then, and absolutely. Beyond these pieces. You said earlier that. That everybody needs to work together, and yet you've had what many characterize as an adversarial relationship with the police. You well-known Facebook back and forth with the police chief. What about that relationship that you think can change or improve or will be different when you become mayor of St. Paul? Besides the fact that then you feel like you could order the chief around, but.
No, I don't have any interest in ordering. I don't have any interest in bossing anybody around. I have an interest in my understanding of how I run my administration is that we're a team, like a football team. We got linemen, we got wide receiver, we got running back, and at the point of execution, everybody's got to be doing their job so that we can score, and we can score for the city of St. Paul. That's my view on this. Look, thank you for asking that question because the national narrative is there's police brutality and disproportionately affect African-American men across this country, right? And institutional racism is real and it exists for hundreds of years. Whether intentional or unintentional, we have to acknowledge that it's there and it exists.
Well, it's not unintentional if it's institutional.
Right, but I'm not saying that if it's intended that way or not. I wasn't there. Right. So when you have a national narrative and you have the same sentiment and the same distrust in your own community, then you have to change the police civilian so that you can regain and build the trust of the community because they're the one that pay into the government so that so we can uphold the system that we have.
Sure, but doesn't that start with the trust between you and the police chief? And
sure,
if that's
sure. Let me finish. Yeah. The chief and myself, we all work for the people. Government belongs to the people. It's not the other way around.
Right, I know.
Right? So if you have a disproportionate community and a community that's been trying to remove the 2 police officers for the last 20 years, something's wrong here.
Do the unions have too much power in that situation? Isn't the chief's hands tied then?
I don't know. But what I do know is that we have protests that spill into the highway. We have issues and traumas in our community that result in death. You can be hardworking and still get killed, like Philando Castillo. It's right, and so it does happen. And so my view is that I don't just look at our society with one frame. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying who's right or wrong. I don't look at one frame. I see the whole spectrum of how we got to where we are and how do we need to move forward. Now, while I was working with the community to regain that trust, at the same time on the Port Authority, which I'm a commissioner, and also on the HRA, I'm helping them build the state-of-the-art training facility so they can have virtual, real-time de-escalation. They can be given the tools that they need to go solve issues in the community that's so complex. The traumas, generational, domestic violence, different things in the community. It's unfair to send our police officer out there to solve issues that sometimes psychiatrists can't even support and solve. And so we have to provide them the kind of tools, the resources they need. You can't pay anybody enough money to risk their life to serve the public good. And so you got to do everything you can to support them. So why I'm doing that, but they don't want to talk about that, which is fine. But the truth is that's what happened. And then over here, what I said is that, look, for the last 20 years, or however many years, we haven't built trust. And because it was boiled to this point, why don't we remove those 2 police officers, add 2 additional, so now we got 9. Now we can add people who have mental health experience. We have young people, we have women, right? It's a diverse range that can make a recommendation to the chief. The chief still makes the final say on what to reprimand and how to discipline. That's one thing. Another point, society changes. Even when you and I were born, we knew how to crawl, and then we learned how to walk, and we learned how to run. Society is the same way. And so if this change doesn't work out, we can always change it. That's how it's supposed to be. We can't just put something set in stone. If we don't have the data to support that it's working or not working, we're not building trust, we can always look at it. So Dai Thao, he's the type of leader that doesn't just like get tunnel vision to one thing. People like to project that he's like that, but he's more strategic. He sees the long range. He sees with the eyes of all the people and hear with the ears of all the people. He's not thinking about tomorrow or the next day. He's thinking about 10, 15, 20, 50 years, how to make the city prosper and how to build trust so that people continue, our residents continue to support our government. Government should not live off the people and prosper from the people. The people should prosper from government.
Yeah. Let's go back to a few points you made. I'm trying to unpack that because you said that, what about critics that'll say that your ideas about opening training facilities and de-escalation are only the symptoms of the real problem? And if the real problem is institutional, and if the police wants to fire an officer, but the union reinstates that officer and he's back out on the street the next day, how are you going to tackle those tough problems? I'm not talking about the first level problems you mentioned, like training and de-escalation, but the real systemic issues.
So having a training facility, having a very diverse and all civilian review board is not the end all be all solution. Right? You and I, are, the way you sound, you get it. Right? That's why as mayor, we have to make sure that family has affordable housing, that folks in our community have good paying job so that they can participate into the system. They can participate in what this country really means to them and to all of us. Right now we don't have that. We have young people on the east side that has no directions because there's no job for them. As mayor, what I want to do, I want to propose a soda tax at the distribution level. We've seen this in Chicago. We've seen this in San Francisco. This money is dedicated toward youth employment and is dedicated to after-school program to support the needs of our community. Every kid in the city of St. Paul, doesn't matter if you're from Highland, East Side, West Side, Frogtown, if you're 14 years old, you should be able to get a job. We got to start them young. We got to invest in those families, in those neighborhoods. We have a strong neighborhood system. You know this. And Minneapolis is the opposite. They have a strong downtown. I always give the example of a concentration of resource into where you're strong. And so if we have a strong neighborhood system, then we got to balance that. And we got to invest in our neighborhood so that our neighborhood can continue to rise so that we can, over the long haul, sustain a downtown. I think it's a mistake for us to think that we can build our downtown to match Minneapolis. They're hundreds of years in advance, further than we are. We will probably never catch up. But we need to concentrate on our neighborhood, make sure it's safe, make sure people want to live here, make sure people want to buy home here, make sure it's well lit, make sure it's pedestrian safety, make sure we have a world-class school system, and make sure we invest in it. So while we're doing all of this, our strategy is not to put all the money into one pot and have people draw on it. That hasn't worked. Marty, you know this. When you do that, the people who draw on that money are the people who have a team of lawyers, who has a big bank account, who have a history of getting those resources, and automatically, somehow people gravitate towards that and say, okay, we should make it available for these folks. Well, the Dai Thao strategy is that, look, the millennials are the fastest growing business trend, but they have so much debt from colleges and different things. And so it's hard for them to go get a business loan because when they look at their credit score, it's not good. So we have to craft a strategy and tool for the millennial, for the African American, for the immigrant, for the women, and for the Latino. So that they're not competing with each other, and because they're different places in society, so they can all rise at their level to get to the point, equilibrium of a strong city, right? And while we're doing this, we want to be strategic about how we invest in downtown, so that downtown continue to thrive and grow and have the kind of business space that big business want to come down there and build their business there and enjoy our beautiful neighborhood.
Yeah, you talked a lot about what needs to happen and in the community to help elevate these groups or people that aren't able to thrive in ways that others are right now. Talk about how you're going to pay for that.
Right now, it's about priority, right? As a mayor, why did I work on the banking ordinance, responsible banking ordinance?
Because you're going to answer that.
Well, of course.
I
Because, you know, we want to partner with the bank to make sure that all community have access to good banking. And it's in the interest of the bank to maintain that and to grow their client base. We're also, because out of that whole work, we got the community investment bank, that the money that we put into the small local bank. Well, we gotta do a better job of holding them accountable so that they're creating the program that serve those demographics that I just spoke about.
Yeah, no, explain that program to me. So, yeah, I'm not sure I understood it, but help me understand that a little bit. So there's investment funds that go out in the community, and you believe that they're not properly allocated at present time.
I think that we can do a better job of working with them to ensure that the money or the capital goes to the folks that needs it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a lot of what like Melvin Carter and others in the race have said. It's not about what we can't not do. It's about reprioritizing where our spending is now. But no one has been very specific about that reprioritization. So in other words, where do the funds go now? Where would you put, you know, and yeah.
Absolutely. So that's my advantage of being a council member of this really, so my leadership is very relevant and I know what's happening in there and I see my own eyes on the things that can't change. So those funds are in the smaller local bank. They're about anywhere from $1 million to $2 million to leverage.
Per bank?
Right, yeah, right. Okay. And so their job through the Human Rights Department is supposed to give us this report on where they're banking with and who they're banking with. We got to make sure that they actually do what they say that they're going to do, and prioritize that with the mayor's priority that these are the demographics that he wants to work with and to grow their business, right? So very specific, very measurable. We can measure the success of the business. Another thing I want to do as mayor is that I want to strengthen my relationship with the big banks, U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo. Why? It's because I want them to try to explore or pilot. Instead of doing traditional media like on TV or radio, why don't they take that $3 million and do what we call community media? So let's say that you have a shop on Selby Avenue or Payne Avenue. And that area needs, Selby's a better example, they need ATM there. There's no banking institution there. So we put an ATM in your coffee shop. On your window, we put a nice looking decor of U.S. Bank there. They give you a $300,000 forgivable loan for 5 years. That means that the life of the commercial lives 5 times 365 days, right? So the only condition is that you have to hire kids from that community. You have to hire folks from that community so we can spread that wealth. And you're giving valuable lesson to those kids. These are very disadvantaged demographic in that area. So a couple of things. The bank achieved the objective of the responsible ordinance of being more in the community, more accountable to the community. 2, they expand their market base into a disfranchised community. Another outcome is that the personal relationship that you have with your banker over those 5 years, it's real and it's powerful. So if you want to open your coffee shop now, but you want to expand to your bakery, because you have that relationship, it makes it easier for you to access that capital. Now, that's another benefit. Another powerful benefit is that you probably have 4 or 5 people that you know. And those people are within your network that you can then connect that to your banker. And because they trust you, they're willing to give this person a chance. So it's a long-term strategy, but it's a strategy that dismantle. Have you seen the report from Dr. Meyer over at U of M?
No.
Okay.
No, I got a lot of reports to read up here.
Okay, all right. Well, let me give you a summary. I'm going to summarize it.
Sure.
The study showed that the bank that performed the worst for giving loans to people of color, women, it's BMO Harris, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, right? The number one that does that gives out the most loan guess.
I wouldn't hazard a guess.
Quick.
Either way, I get in trouble. So.
Quicken Loans.
Okay.
Quicken Loans. It's all online.
I thought you were going to say payday loan.
No, they're there. Yeah. So that tells us that what is the difference between banking in person for people of color to get that loan versus online, where they can't tell if Joe Johnson is a person of color or not. Right. And so these are data that shows us that there's this institutional bias, and so that's why it's really important for us to work with the bank to help them be in our community and help our community thrive. At the same time, they can benefit from getting new clients and new service into our community. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds, when you first started out and said, as a mayor, I would like to get close with big banks. The politicians getting close to big banks, that doesn't sound that great. But after you elaborated about what you wanted to do in the community, yeah, I mean, I think that's something people would appreciate. Yeah,
I mean, it's going to take some sort of understanding and relationship. That's what I mean. But I'll never stop fighting for the people, the regular people. That's where I'm from. Yeah.
Let's talk about what you've done to engage in city policy as a person on the council. What are some of the things that you introduced? What are some of the new ideas? Who did you work with? You had a colleague, Pat Harris. He's also in the race. You and he had to work together. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. I think some of my achievement has been to ensure that we have affordable housing in Ward 1 and across the city of St. Paul. That's extremely important. Yes. We cannot displace people from the city. The Earn, Sick, and Save Time, right? That's one of the strongest, probably the strongest ordinance across the country. So that
talk about it again. What is that?
Earn, Sick, and Save Time.
Oh, Earn, Sick, and Save Time.
So if you're an employee in the city of St. Paul, for every 30 hours you work, you get 1 hour to take care of your family or a domestic situation. I think that's extremely important and trailblazing. I mentioned the responsible banking, my work on the Port Authority, the Macy building, bringing in 30 jobs that pay $30, $40 an hour, good paying job, good union job. My work with the administration on the soccer field, the soccer stadium. Like all these work, it's not just done by Dai Thao. It's done because you need to work with everybody. As mayor, I also see the council as team. They're part of the team, and our job is to work together. to ensure that the city is sustainable and it works for everybody. I don't believe in this thing where I have to muscle my way. I have to use my authority to get what I want. You know, I think that as mayor, I already know what my capacity, what my power is. But it's important to share that so that everybody is co-creating. And when you share power, you share responsibility. Mm-hmm. And everybody's coming from a good place. So you got to make sure that they take the responsibility to make the city work for all of us. We work on, of course, we talk about the Civilian Review Board. My work on the tobacco, making sure that we protect our kids from the tobacco industry so that they don't create a new generations of addicts and health issues in our community. I've been a strong champion of the environment, fighting to make sure that we increase our parkland dedication fund. The earth can't speak English to us, but we can see in Hurricane, Harvey, and so we have beautiful landscape here along the river above. Mm-hmm. It took millions of years to get to that point. We could destroy it with one big construction project, whatever, right? And so we have to really take care of our environment. I'm a very strong supporter. I'm pushing for all-day pre-K in the city of St. Paul. Okay. And I know that it's important for working family to be able to send their kids at an early age to learn while they save up a little to start their own business. I want to look at the zoning, the restriction, whether it's Airbnb or if you want to do a massage room in your house, you should be able to do that. It's neighborhood-friendly business initiative. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
I do, and let's talk about that a little bit because, we've talked to other candidates and we had to address this issue about the dramatic rise in taxes for the average person in St. Paul. You're talking about 24, 26, 28% tax increase. And Mr. Thao, people have said that this falls back on your team, your city council, your current mayor, that you are paying now for sins of the past. How do you feel about that?
That's Marty, I'd love to have that conversation with you, and I'm glad you asked. This system, the right-of-way assessment program, was created when one of my, the other candidate was in office, and it was during the Kelly administration. That's the facts. Hey, Tim Nelson from NPR can tell you the research that he's done into this. So basically, we are the one that's taking responsibility because when the lawsuit came and we saw that we weren't gonna, it wasn't gonna go well. At that time, some of my colleagues, we've already tried to figure out how do we move forward. That's why we came up with a pilot program, right?
But the city fought the lawsuit.
Oh yeah, we did.
The right-of-way lawsuit. Yeah. Do you, because you believe that nonprofits and businesses like that don't have a right to not pay taxes? I
think that it was a perfect storm of people kicking this stuff down the road. Right? And it got to where it is, and I think the Supreme Court ruled the way that it thought was just. I think that let's talk.
How did you personally feel about that ruling?
I think the taxes are too high. I think it's a burden, but we still need to have our street plow. Winter is coming up. We still need those service, but
let's budget is huge.
Let's talk about what a Dai Thao administration would look like. Right, like this one is Mayor Coleman's last budget. I voted against the last levy increase last year because I thought it was too high. I agree with you. I live in Frogtown. Frogtown, East Side, North End, we have the fastest rise of home value. We get taxed the most and the highest. Just based on percentage. Yet we are the neighborhoods that are most impoverished, right? Mm-hmm. So we get hit the most. And that's why I voted against that whole thing. This year, I support moving into property tax because at least we can claim something, but it's too high. So here's what Dai Thao would do. When I become mayor, the first 6 months, what I want to do is, my background is IT, I want to do a data analysis across all the departments, every single employee that's connected to the system or the computer, right? Cell phone, everything. We can pull those data. We call data mining. We can pull those data and we can tell who's working, where the bottlenecks is. I don't want to say anything, but we can find out where the bottlenecks is. When we find the bottleneck in those data, it's going to become public. Dai Thao is going to show it to the neighborhood and everybody. So we know what's happening in City Hall. And we all have to hold each other accountable and say, one, we change right, internally, or we have to do structural changes because we're not meeting the requirement of what our constituent and our resident has asked us to do. We're here to serve them.
You don't believe that that transparency exists today? I mean, there's no place what about you yourself? Can you go right now and find out that information? I mean, that would be a good campaign tool.
I don't understand your question.
Well, you said that you would do some analytics. You would look at the data and you would try to determine where are the bottlenecks.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Is that data available today? And if so, why not talk about that in the campaign?
I don't know, right? Like, I don't know what kind of system do we need to get a third-party software, or what kind of script we have to write to poll those query, right?
Okay.
But
it's probably a SQL commands, and you
maybe.
check that. It's a Mongo database or SQL, no SQL. What are you gonna pull? Yeah,
maybe all of those.
Yeah, right.
But that's a good point, right? But no one else is talking about this, and that's why it's important to have someone who has an IT background to lead us into the future too. He not only knows the technology and the innovation and how to make our city more efficient and accountable. For example, why is it that the Heritage Preservation Committee are not in the same building as the DSI? You see what I'm saying? So why don't they work together? Because they need to communicate and make it more efficient for the community members. And if anybody in the city of St. Paul come up with an idea how to make our government work better and faster, I want to recognize them.
So a suggestion box, a citywide digital suggestion box.
Sure. Oh, sure. And I want to encourage everybody on this and the city employees to come up with ideas.
Let me hit you up on the.
Sure.
You got these district councils. They're not just there for fun. They come up with like a strategic plan. They make recommendations based on citizen input. How would you, as the mayor, leverage those district councils to help inform you? How did you do it on the board, on the city council?
I have a great working relationship with the district council, and I'm very proud of the work that they've done. For every dollar that we provide them, they produce $3 worth of service. Right? So when I was as a council member, I saw that they needed to upgrade their database. This is a centralized database that all the district council can tap into so they can see the trends. Sure. And they needed these data because they can then pull these data to tell their story to funders, right? Yeah, right. And my job, I'm currently the IT manager for the Greater Minneapolis Crisis Nursery in Minneapolis. So I see a couple of things about what we do well there and how we use data to tell our story. And not just in every corporations out there is using data. And so our methodology of governing should also be based on data. Right? There's going to be certain things we won't use data, but if we're going to make strategic decision, it should also be based on data and not just hunch.
But back to the district councils, how would they have a direct input?
Thank you. Sure. So Dai Thao, my leadership style is not to work in the ivory tower. Right? I want to be out in the community. I'll be visiting the district council. Is there one
downtown? Is there an actual ivory tower? Where is it?
It's a metaphor.
I see there's a big statue in your building.
Oh, yeah, right.
I get you.
Right. But you know what I'm talking about, Marty.
Yes,
right? When I got elected, I saw that the people that were able to come see me, they were big business. And so I said, you know what? I told my person, I said, my executive secretary, I said, this won't work. You have to schedule me to be in the community every Thursday at a different location, so that I can be in the community, I can listen to them. And
let me ask you a question about that, because I don't know. Tim Nelson covers City Beat. I have to pick his brain on this, but how does that work? Like, tell me about the division of your time when you're in city council. Like, how much of it? I know you guys go to council meetings, but how much of it's spent on dealing with like big businesses, chamber of commerce versus the citizens and constituents? What would you say the split is on average? Not just Dai Thao, but
I haven't really broken that up.
Yeah, just a guess. I know because you're an analytics guy, right?
So I would say that I can't speak for other council member, but myself, I work in the morning at my crisis nursery job, and from noon until 5, until 6, 10, whatever I need to get to, I go there. being Hmong American, I go to almost every funeral. I go to wedding. I go to where they tie string around your right.
Yes.
So I don't get a break, and I do it because my present is really important to them. And that is the sacrifice that I make. When I wake up, my kids are sleeping. When I come home, they're sleeping. And sometimes I go and wake them up so I can play with them, and I get in trouble. My wife yells at me. So, but yes. so it's a part-time job. Technically, it's a part-time job. But we put a lot of hours into it. And so tonight, after I'm done here, yes. I'm going to a graduation party, because there's several young college students and they graduated, and it's important for me to go there and say, you know, I'm Councilmember Dai Thao, you're on the right track, keep studying, you want to start business in St. Paul, that is the best thing to do, right? Yes. So, you know, and it's important work.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's not even, Marty, it's not even a job. Right. It's a way of life.
Sure. Couple more questions for you, we're going to wrap up.
Of course.
You mentioned that you bring your culture into your, how can you separate yourself from your culture? You can't really, and you wouldn't want to. So when you get into office, elders are a big part of the Hmong community. What will you do to give the elders in the Hmong community a voice in your administration?
Well, I wouldn't, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because my culture taught me to hold our elders. When I say elders, I am not just talking about Hmong American. I'm talking about all elders in the city of St. Paul. They are the highest structure, the pinnacle of our community structure, right? The wisdom, the trailblazer, and we have to hold them to the highest dignity and respect. And that is something that for some reason in this country, we've lost that. I don't know where and when, but when I first came to this country, we lived near a nursing home, and I couldn't understand why do all those old people live there, but there's no kids, there's no family. Right. But I grew up in a household where my grandma, who's really old and her hair is like all the way down to her feet, stay with us and nurture us and guide us. And so it was very confusing. And so I will always respect the elders in our community and always fight for them, because they're the one that has been able to bring the city to this where we are today. The seniors who are retiring today at the nursing home, 30, 40 years ago, they were the one that was helping Hmong Americans to adapt to this country, and they were the caseworker, they were the counselor, they were the school teacher. Yeah. We can't forget them. We got to treat them the way that we want our kids to treat us when we get to their age, and so I'll always respect them.
Okay.
And work with them and protect them.
All right, let's move beyond the campaign, rhetoric and all of that, and just forget the cameras for a minute, and that there's several people in this room. And it was just you talking to me, and we were out at maybe McCaffrey's. You go there? No?
Let's see.
What about Tom Reed's up the street? You go up there? Or no? The Buttery? That's closed down. What do you go to in St. Paul when you want to have a drink?
You
don't drink?
I've gone to the Ferns. I've gone to Muddy Pig. All right. I've gone to O'Gara.
Okay, O'Gara's. Let's say we're at O'Gara's, because I'm Irish. That would be a nice place to go.
We're just there. I'm Irish too.
You're all. Listen, St. Patrick's Day, everyone in this room is Irish. So we're happy to have you.
Hey, I'm also the honorary Irishman a year or two ago. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I
fit right in.
Yeah,
I fit right in. It was like I was taller than the leprechaun, so they're like, "Hey, this guy's good."
All right, now that's classic. Now we're going to save that for a soundbite. So we're just having a conversation about you and your life and all the places you come from and your long journey, and now here you are, and you're running for mayor. Why the hell do you want this job? I mean, it's kind of a thankless job in a way, and it's kind of small-time politics. It's a little town in the Midwest. Why do you want to do it? And what's in your heart? Why do you care? By the way, I love St. Paul. It's not just a little town in the middle.
I love St. Paul too. You know, I lost a lot of people in my life. You know, my sister, my dad, my brother, my younger brother, countless relatives. For me to be here, it's a miracle of the obstacle that I have come through. War, crossing that dangerous river, lives in the ghetto. I know that we can't live forever. I know that I won't be here forever. What good is my life if I live for myself? Our life is only meaningful when we live for others. What good is it for us to have so much money, but people in our community struggle? They can't put food on the table. I walk into home that I just can't even imagine why they're living in this place. What good is it for me to have that when they don't? What good is it? And we got to be asking ourselves this as human beings. That we have it so good and people have it so bad. We should drop everything that we have to help everyone else live up so we can all have a little. We all can have some. I think that's the meaning of life. That's the purpose of life. And so that's why I'm willing to sacrifice to do a thankless job, whatever people want to call it. I don't call it a life. I don't call it a job. I call it a way of living, to serve. It's extremely important for me as a Hmong American to pave the path, to tell other immigrants and to rekindle the spirit of the American spirit of the Irish, the German, the Jew, the first people that came here when the Native American was living here. It's a fresh spirit off the boat of wanting to see paradise and creating that sense of justice and liberty. We have lost that, some of that, and we have to recapture that. And I'm willing to sacrifice my time, my energy, give every ounce of energy in my body to reach that goal. And it's okay if we don't reach that. When I'm old and I'm on my bed, I would be happy to meet my Maker and say, Lord, I did everything I could.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dai Thao. It's been an interesting hour with you, and I appreciate your candor there and your transparency. It's a big deal to run for mayor of any town, any city, any place. So, good luck. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here, and I appreciate the work that you all do here. And thank you to the hardworking people of St. Paul. St. Paul's great because of you, not us. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. We've been with candidate Dai Thao. He is a mayoral candidate for the 2017 St. Paul mayor's seat, and current member of City Council, or just former? Are you current?
I'm current. I represent Ward 1 of the St. Paul City Council.
That's right. You wait a minute now. Who are these people here with you?
This is Julie. She's my...
Come on up, Julie. Hey, can you come over here for a second? Yeah, and also...
yeah.
Okay, come on over. Let's introduce you on the camera. Yeah, come on. Yeah. Are you guys campaign workers? We're going to just have to turn the camera down if you don't come over here, so you might as well come over. Go ahead. Come on up. Yeah. So Dai said he appreciates all the people of St. Paul, even his campaign workers. So what's your role on the campaign?
So I'm Julie, and I'm the deputy field director. Yeah,
Okay.
in the campaign.
Ooh,
Where do you live?
that sounds important.
So I'm in Ward 1, so Councilmember Thao is my representative.
Okay. Good. Okay. And you are? Come on in. And can you get her on camera? Okay, great.
My name is Yingya. I'm just a volunteer doing field work, and I live on the east side of St. Paul in Ward 7.
Okay. District Council 7 is over there. Have you ever been to a meeting?
I am on the District Council 4. Dayton's Bluff.
4. Dayton's
Dayton's
Bluff.
Bluff,
Okay,
yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I'm a board member.
Nice. Okay, good.
And
Well,
then, Marty, as you
yeah.
can see, our campaign is grassroots, so
Yeah,
we are very
sure.
intentional about creating space at the table so that all gender of all groups, community members could have a place and lead our campaign.
Yeah.
So we have to be intentional about developing the new leaders of the city.
That's absolutely right. Do either one of you know who Mimua is? You know who she is?
Yeah.
Have you ever met her?
I have not. No.
Yeah, she was a senator up here for many years and blazed a trail for Hmong Americans, especially female Hmong Americans. So no office is too high for you. So
That's right.
That's right. Okay, good luck.
Thanks, Marty.
Good luck. Yeah, you bet. Okay, take care. This is Marty saying so long from the Capitol. Good night for now. You bet. You bet.
you.